Morning everyone, welcome back for Snippet Saturday, and as promised, a tiny little wooden bobbin. So I've got a few from my stash that I've been collecting from people selling off their old stashes, and I'd like to use this little tiny one. It's just the cutest. Look how small that is. So inside, if I can measure this, it's no more than, it's like 8 millimeters. What's that in inches? Quarter of an inch. So I've got a bit of my hemp that I've been using quite a bit of, which is just adorable. And this selvaged edge, when you look at it under the, can you see it under the light? Maybe not. The selvaged edge is, I'll be able to see it better there. So the selvage edge, it's just a bit smaller, but I thought I'd use it because it would be stronger and a bit easier to have reinforced. So I'm just sort of, let's see, yeah. That's it. Just eyeballing it. None of these things are meant to be absolutely perfect. So let's just have a look. Oh, it's the tiniest. So what I want to do is mark, because I'm going to sew that together. Hand stitch that to stitch it on. So I just want to mark the spot there. Because I don't need to start before that point. Right. So when it's sewn together, I'll be starting from there. All right. Let me just gather a few materials because I didn't get myself organised as usual. Okay, so I'm back with some little scraps. Now I'm aware that I said I was going to do this quite a few weeks ago, and since then G. Kerr has done a little mini snippet and it looks very similar. So I've watched hers, and in all fairness, we all can sometimes come up with the same idea at the same time. Sometimes we have watched something and we come up with an idea from watching someone else, and so I'm going to link hers below because I think that's fair. We're all creative people on a creative roll, so I'm going to just put some glue stick down like G did, just because that's actually the one way that to get it to stick, as I did last week. So this is a bit of cheesecloth that I've cut a few bits from. I've got some bits of ribbon. And I decided I would, because I've still got the stash from my friend's grandma, which has all this, it's embroidery stuff, but mostly floristry stuff. She must have run a florist shop, her grandma. And so I've still got all that stuff. So I'm just trying to use up a bit of that. So it's Purple Day today. Here we go. A lovely bit of purple. And silver. Now, got some think I'm going to glue stick over this layer. Might be a bit difficult, but just to make it easier to build up layers. Tiny little pieces. And of course your fingies get all sticky. Oh no, glue everywhere. A bit more purple up here. Down here. A little bit of cheesecloth stuff at the end. Okay. Now I'm just going to give that a little moment to dry, and then I'm going to zigzag stitch all the way down, and I'll use a purple thread for that. Okay, this is the little wooden reels that I've been getting off people from their old stashes, their antique stashes that they don't require anymore. So I've just used this purple and given a zigzag down the middle. Now, in retrospect, I think it would have been possibly better with white because the purple shows up quite a lot. But what I want to do is just add a few little extra bits. Maybe I'll just use the variegated. And then we'll have a variety. Keeping it all in the purple family. Maybe I'll do 3, so there's a bit of definition. 3 strands. Oh, this is fun. Last night I decided that I had a whole heap of new threads and I wound them all onto... Sometimes it's actually quite soothing to just sit and wind on the threads onto the, you know, these little plastic things. I did that. While I was watching OK Geek Moment, now I've decided that I need to put what my geek moment of the week is, and oh look, you know, it's not science fiction. Usually it's a science fiction thing, so it wasn't in this particular instance. I was watching on Netflix, so Netflix always, not always, sorry, no. I just finished Humans on Amazon Prime. And found that, this is my geek moment for this week, I found that fascinating in terms of the question of what if we have AIs that are synthetic beings that become conscious. Do they have rights? How do we as humans deal with that? What are your thoughts? What are your thoughts? Oh, YouTube land that are watching this. Anyway, I found it fascinating because at the start I was like, yeah, they're just machines. They're just like, machines with a synthetic skin that look like human on over the top. But then when you see everything that happens to them, you start to see them as, because they look like humans and they start to have feelings, you start to see them as having just as much rights as humans. So I'm just doing some French knots here. I found it fascinating, and it would be a very interesting discussion to have, I think, with people about what their thoughts on it are. So if they're like a sex doll, are they actually being raped if they've got consciousness, etc.? Lots of things. What rights do they have to, if they're being abused, if they're being broken or beaten up, or any of those sorts of things? Do they have a right to have a relationship if they feel like they've got feelings? So by the end of season 3, and sometimes it's really sad when you're watching something and it finishes, because you're like, oh, that could have easily gone on and done a few more seasons. But always with any shows, it's like a bit like The Expanse on was on Netflix, I think, for one season, and my friend Lawrence got me onto that one. He loves it. One season, and then they were going to finish it, and so Amazon Prime took it over and did up to season 5, and I think season 6 will probably come out, but maybe in another year or something. I don't know. They haven't said if they're filming it yet. That show just got better and better and better by the season. Right. Do we want to just do all French knots? Might be interesting. I think I'd like to do a bit of fly stitch. So by the end of Humans, I was like, oh my goodness, humans are horrible, and the machines, I think I prefer them because they're not awful. Some of them were, though. Some of them were, but they were in reaction to how they were being treated sometimes. Let's see how I go. That was my geek moment for the week. With a straight stitch. One of the things that I was reminded of with shows like that is also that on top of what we're watching, they've made it machines and humans, but always there is a completely different sideline where it's racism, basically. It's talking about racism, sexism, anything like that, but it's made into a movie. So we've got it more like a metaphor of how we are in the world. A bit of a metaphor. But it reminded me of, there's a movie called, what was it? It's a bit of a B-grade movie, and it's about, it's really about apartheid, but it was made in South Africa where somehow they'd lost the funding for the movie that they were actually making. So on the spot they decided, let's just make another movie and we'll improvise it. So they were making up the script as they went. Something 9 it's called. District 9, that's what it's called, I think, District 9. And so it was a B-grade sci-fi type of movie in the end. So they had these aliens that the humans mistreated incredibly badly and didn't even understand, and just made all these assumptions that they didn't love their children or that they weren't nice people, etc. And they were very abusive. And the thing is, it was made in South Africa, so around the time of apartheid being an issue. And so, you know, when you watch it, you can go, yeah, well, those aliens, they're calling them prawns. And I believe from reading the back notes that the prawns were actually, they were making a movie, the budget, they lost their funding or something, and they had all these props and they'd been making all these costumes. They just made up all these costumes for the prawns and made a story. They called them prawns because that's just like, oh, they look a little bit like a prawn, so let's call them that, which is just no different than any other racial slur for anyone. You know, oh, you're white, you're this, or you're black, you're this, or you're Asian, you're this. It's like, how about we're all human beings? Oh, okay, I wasn't expecting to have a rant, but there you go, I got one in. As you do. All right. Oh, this is fun. Oh, you just sit and embroider and have a natter, isn't it good? Natter, there you are. That was the word that, now I've forgotten her name, sorry. Natter, we had that last week, we were talking about the word natter. I can picture her. It's funny, isn't it? You can picture people, and sometimes when you're getting old and fuddled, you can't always remember people's names all the time off the bat. And I'll remember it as soon as I've got off here, of course. Okay, here we go. So this is going to be Scrappy Snippet on a tiny wooden reel Saturday. Stitches. Do I want to do? I'm sort of not wanting to do any super duper stitches. I think because it's so tiny. Let's do some crosses. One of my favourite stitches. Anyway, that was Humans and also The Expanse. So The Expanse, go back to my little geek moment. Apparently, on The Expanse, the writer of the books has quite a cult following and has written many, many books. And when you watch The Expanse on Amazon Prime, if you like political sci-fi space, I think they call them space operas in some situations. Space operas is when it's like a story in space. I mean, that one just gets better and better by the season. More and more complex. And also when you realise that the writer has written such complex characters, such complex characters. Sorry, I had to just stop that and edit out my massive sneeze. You know, you realise what a good writer they are when they write such complex characters, that's for sure. And such amazing backstories. So I found that was very chunky and satisfying, honestly. Satisfying. Satisfying when there's a lot of depth. Alright, so I think I'm going to probably use this to sew it on. I need a smaller needle. The barky dog next door's started. I've had to shut my window in the daytime because honestly, that dog goes. Yesterday, that dog went all day and all night till at least 10 p.m. I don't think that's fair, is it? Is it fair? It's not fair if a dog's left on their own that long that they have to bark that much. People have to go to work, but don't have a pet if you can't be there with it. That's my thought. Okay, so I'm going to come in from the back here. Really securing this as much as I can. Now what's going on with the cotton? Now the other day I realised, because I'm left-handed, that I'm doing a lot of the reels left-handed, so I tried to do this one right-handed today, and I'm sewing it on left-handed here. Just gonna come back in under to cut that off. Alright, let's see how we go rolling it. It's so cute. There. Now, how am I going to skew it? I probably should have left that a bit longer. We could tie a bit of this. I think, I could use a ribbon, but I think that a bit of ribbon might be a bit too thick. So let's just pull this one this way. Maybe a bit longer. This is very fiddly, trying to do it this small. Okay. There we go. Got a little bow holding it. And So there we have it. There's our tiny weeny incy wincy little wooden snippet roll. Very cute. Alright, that's it for Snippet Saturday this week, and I'll be back next week, and I hope you have a great week. Bye for now.